So today I'm going to be talking about something that I have decided over the last like 10 years is that I prefer adult main protagonists over teenage main protagonists. I'm going to tell you why. But before I do that, first I'm going to clarify some misunderstandings. Number one, I do not think that teenage main protagonists are poorly written. So there are some that I don't like, but that doesn't mean that they're poorly written or they're bad. I just don't like them. But for the most part, I don't really like teenage main protagonists. But there are exceptions. There are some that I do like. Those are the exceptions. But for the most part, I prefer adult main protagonists. So also, I want to explain why I don't like teenage shows as much as I used to as well. It's mostly due to age. Like as I've gotten older, it doesn't appeal to me as much. So I don't watch them as much as I used to because due to age and maturity. Seeing as I'm 20, I don't care about shows made for 14-year-olds. Obviously, it makes sense. Some people would, but I don't. So yeah, that's clarified. So we're going to move on to the 5 reasons. So number 1 is character development. So when it comes to character development, I would say that adult main protagonists, they develop and change better than teenage main protagonists. And also, it's easier to write an adult main protagonist because you can write them from child to adult. So you can see the progression. With a teenage main protagonist, it's harder to develop them. It's because they stop at a certain age. Like, for example, you could write a character from age 6 to age 14 if they're a teenager, but like you have to like do 8 years of progression, but there's not that much progression with a teenager because there's not that much that happens in their life in 8 years. Whereas an adult, you can do over 20 years of progression and it's way more dynamic and way more interesting than 8 years. The time length is extended, so you have a more development than a teenage main protagonist. So that's more of like a necessary evil that obviously teenage main protagonists are going to have less progression over time than adult because adults are older, obviously. So that's more of a given. I prefer that than the teenagers. Obviously, it's not their fault. I'm not really saying it's a bad thing, but I'm just saying I prefer a character who's shown progressing over the years if they do that type of story, and also that they're more mature, so they're gonna do it faster as an adult, teenager, because obviously teenagers are very immature compared to adults. So obviously their character development is going to be better than a teenagers to a degree. But also, number 2, I also want to talk about the fact that like characters who are adults have more varied personalities. They have more dynamic personalities, more different personalities than a character who's a teenager. Like an adult has way more layers to them than a teenager does to a degree. And like for example, you can write all types of different characters with an adult, whereas a teenager, it's not as easy because they will come off as as unrealistic. But with an adult, you can do more. So it's more like varied when you write an adult main protagonist. You have more wiggle room than when you write a teenager. Like most teenagers fall into like 3 categories. They either fall into being an emo, a nice guy, or an asshole. That's like their three character personalities for most teenage main protagonists. Mainly male. I'm talking about male, by the way, because I prefer male main protagonists over female. Not to try and be that dude, but yeah, I prefer that. Though you can write them as emo, villain, authoritarian, all types of different personalities. You can add more personalities to a adult main protagonist. You can write them as a serial killer, like for example Kira from JoJo. Like he's a grown man, but you see him as an adult, and as when he was a kid and as an adult, as he's changed and how he's become more and more intelligent and more smart as a serial killer. But you get my point. It's more varied and it's more dynamic with an adult. But also, let's move on to number 3. So this one might be a little bit, people might take this the wrong way and say that this one's a little bit nitpicky or a little bit or unnecessary, but this may sound, is the best way to say it, nitpicky. Number 3 is characters who main protagonists, adult main protagonists, are not afraid to hit on women, whereas teenage main protagonists are. And like, to be honest, like the best way I can say is that it's not shown realistically in shows how hard it is to attract women in shows, because obviously it's supposed to be entertaining. I get it, but when it comes to like teenage main protagonists, they mainly, this is what I see in like anime mostly, because I don't watch cartoons as like teenage cartoons obviously, but in mainly anime, you see dudes getting girls without even trying. Like, it's ridiculous. ridiculous. Like, a dude will literally like help a girl out or just be nice to them, and they just get the vajayjay easily, and you're just there like, that's so bullshit. You're sitting there like, that's bullshit, because you know it's not that easy in real life. You know it's not that easy. Like, as like, if a grown man is gonna watch that and be like, that's bullshit, because they know, because we know how hard it is to impress a woman in real life. It's so fucking hard. Even in other countries, it's not that easy. It's not as easy as entertainment shows it. But in like more adult stories, you see the dudes actually try, or the girl like basically moves towards them, and they do the dirty, because they're not afraid to. Like, a lot of teenage vampires are afraid to, like, best thing I can say is that they're afraid of sex. They're afraid of sex. Like, every time they get the opportunity to have sex, they run away from it, or they're scared. Whereas adults, they don't give a shit. Like, they're grown men, they're gonna do it. Like, it's that simple. Like, it's more of a pet peeve for me when I see teenage vampires just afraid of women. Like, that's how it comes across. It comes across as them being afraid, them being scared, and you're just sitting there like, bruh, do it, bro. Stop being a puss. Like, that's what I feel when I see it. It's just, I'm just there like, you're a pussy. Like, you have opportunity to get laid, and you're scared. I get that some of them are virgins, but at the same time, like they're not afraid to fight a life or death situation. But then, how does that make sense? How you less afraid to fight to the death than get some pum pum? How does that make sense? That doesn't make any sense. How is that even like logical? I see that a lot, where a dude will go into a life or death fight straight away. Like, he don't care. Like, man will fight to the death. But when he has the opportunity to get laid, he's afraid. I'm just there like, it doesn't make sense to me. It's just stupid. Well, yeah, that's more of a pet peeve. That reason might sound a little bit petty, but still, that shit does annoy me. So some people might agree, some people might disagree. But yeah, number 4, doesn't try to make friends with the enemy. This one pisses me off the most. I've seen this too many times in some animes or some like shows, where a dude, or like not even dude, like villain or antagonist will do some heinous shit. They will commit the worst crimes, and for some reason the main character will still be friends with them. It don't make no sense. No sense at all. It don't. Like perfect. That's a perfect example of this. Naruto is a perfect example of this. Like, you will see Naruto befriend serial killers, dudes who kill people, who've killed hundreds if not thousands of people, and he will still befriend them. Fucking Gaara is a serial killer. He killed so many people, but somehow he Naruto became friends with him. But like, that's more on, I'll give that one a pass, because at least Gaara had a fucked up childhood, so that makes sense to why he was a serial killer. But even worse is Obito, when Obito is the reason why Naruto's life was even ruined in the first place, because Obito is the reason to why Naruto is an orphan, because he's responsible for his parents' murder. So the dude that pretty much killed your parents, you're gonna try and befriend him. You're gonna forgive him after he's the reason why your life was shit. If someone killed my parents, and they're public enemy number 1, they gonna die. I don't care. You're getting murked. No, I'm not forgiving you. I don't care. You're getting murked, fam. I do not care if how shit your life was. You're getting murked. You are the enemy, fam. You're getting murked. I don't give a shit. But somehow he gets forgiven. Like, it's ridiculous. It's so unrealistic that a guy can commit the most heinous crimes and still get forgiven. Like, it's stupid. It's dumb. It's really dumb. I when I see that in shows, I'm just there like, how the fuck does that make sense? Why are you befriending the dude that ruined your life? That don't make no sense. Like, what are you, an angel? Like, what are you, a kindred spirit? It's so unrealistic. Like, sometimes they make characters so unrealistically nice that it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't correlate, because you're there like, okay, what can he not do? That doesn't get him forgiven. It becomes unrealistic. Like, you have to have realism in a story to a certain degree, to an extent. When you go over when when you're writing a character or writing a story and you make a character like so nice to the point where they'll forgive anyone for anything, it will get rid of all consequence and tension in the story if the character forgives forgives the villain for whatever they've done. It doesn't make sense. It just gets rid of all consistency. But yeah, like that shit. That's the main reason. That is one of the main reasons why I don't like. Why I don't like, but why I prefer adult main protagonists over teenage main protagonists. Because teenage protagonists, they will not make friends with you. They'll murk. You're just done. They'll just rinse you. It's a wrap. But yeah, let's move on to. Speaking of raps, let's move on to number 5. Not afraid to get their hands dirty. So adult main protagonists are more likely to kill a dude than a teenage main protagonist, and this is not even an opinion. This is a fact. Like, look at how many adult main protagonists there are that murk people, like Wolverine, fucking Punisher, Dante, Kratos. Like, you got all these different adults who don't care. If you get in their way, you die. It's that simple. That's how all those characters work. You get in their way, you get murked. And I'm not saying that a teenage main protagonist has to be a serial killer, but I'm saying that when you want to write a more serious story, it's better to do it with a adult main protagonist, because teenage main protagonists, they don't really do that as much, and they're more afraid to than a adult, because adults, like I said, is more mature and understands is more logical and understands what needs to be done. They do what is needed in order for survival. They don't mind getting their hands dirty to get the job done, because sometimes that's how you have to do it. It's more mature and more logical for an adult main protagonist to do that for a teenage main protagonist. So that's more understandable for adult main protagonist to do that than a teenage main protagonist to do that. So yeah, those are the 5 reasons, or just the reasons why I prefer an adult main protagonist over a teenage main protagonist. Go down in the comments and tell me if you agree or disagree. If you agree, tell me why. If you disagree, tell me why. We'll have a debate. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. But yeah, I'm out.